There is a quiet power that only a few people ever master. The power to walk into a room, look at someone for 3 seconds, and understand exactly who they are, before they even open their mouth. It sounds mythical, but it isn't. Every day, without noticing, people reveal themselves in small leaks of behavior, micro-tensions around the eyes, tiny shifts in posture, the way they breathe when you speak, a hesitation so subtle most minds glide over it. And yet, those tiny fragments tell the entire story, because the truth is uncomfortable. People are readable, not in a magical or mystical way, but in a psychological, behavioral, brutally logical way. Most never learn this skill. They assume others are unpredictable, complicated, mysterious. They think manipulation is something only smart people do, and being deceived is something that just happens. But the people who move through life with clarity, the ones who rarely get betrayed, rarely get blindsided, rarely fall into the wrong partnerships, they all have the same silent advantage. They know how to read human behavior like a book. And here's the part no one tells you. You don't read people by what they show. You read them by what they try to hide. A person's real intentions leak through patterns, patterns that most overlook, patterns that decide who drains you, who empowers you, who you should trust, and who you should run from. Tonight, we open that book. Not the one they want you to see, the real one. The one written in micro-choices, emotional residue, and silent truths written between their words. By the end of this video, you will never look at people the same way again. Most people walk through life believing they're paying attention. But the human mind isn't designed to see truth. It's designed to simplify it. We don't observe people as they are. We observe them through shortcuts the brain creates. Patterns, assumptions, emotional projections, old fears, old memories. And these shortcuts distort everything. You think you're reading someone, but you're mostly reading your own expectations of them. That's the invisible problem. You meet someone confident and mistake it for competence. You meet someone quiet and assume they're shy or harmless. You see someone smiling and believe they're safe. Humans leak honesty constantly, but we're trained to pay attention to the mask, not to the cracks. The truth is brutal. You've misread people your entire life, not because you're ignorant, but because your brain is lazy. It chooses the detail that confirms the story you already want to believe. This is why manipulators thrive. They know exactly which signals you're conditioned to trust. They know how to mimic warmth, mimic confidence, mimic humility. They know you're scanning the surface while the truth hides in the shadows. And so most people stay blind, not because people are hard to read, but because they are looking in the wrong direction. The real signs aren't loud, they're subtle. They appear in the fractions of a second when someone forgets to perform. They appear at the edges of a sentence. They appear in the inconsistency between words and behavior. If you learn to look there, not at the performance, but at the friction behind it, you begin to see what others cannot. You begin to see who is insecure, who is resentful, who is secretly competitive, who is trustworthy, who is pretending, who is quietly falling apart, and who carries intentions they're afraid to reveal. Reading people is not about judgment. It's about clarity. Clarity protects you. Clarity gives you power. Clarity saves you from years of walking into the wrong hands. And if this is already opening your mind, perhaps consider liking this video. It helps this message reach more people who need this kind of clarity. Because the deeper we go from here, the more the mask begins to fall. In 1968, at Stanford University, a quiet experiment unfolded in a narrow hallway lined with two-way mirrors. Most people know the marshmallow test, but almost no one knows what happened after it. While the children were left alone with the marshmallow, the researchers weren't just observing discipline, they were observing micro-behavior. Tiny, almost invisible cues children revealed when they thought no one was watching. One child tapped his feet rapidly, a sign of internal anxiety. Another whispered to himself, a sign of cognitive self-regulation. Another sat perfectly still, frozen, a sign of emotional overwhelm. 3 children, same test. Completely different psychological structures exposed without a single word spoken. Years later, when these children grew up, their lives reflected exactly what those tiny cues predicted. Some struggled with impulsivity, some developed strong self-control, Some repeated emotional loops for decades. It wasn't the marshmallow that revealed them. It was the behavior between the behavior. The little movements most adults ignore. But here's the part that should make you pause. Adults don't grow out of these cues. They just learn to hide them better. A manager avoiding eye contact when giving feedback. A partner whose smile fades half a second too fast. A friend who insists everything's fine, while their hands twist in micro-tension. A business partner who agrees too quickly, a classic sign of concealed motive. The body speaks the truth first. The words arrive later. Good readers of people pay attention to the transitions. The silence after a question, the breath taken before answering, the tone shift when a certain topic appears. These are not random. These are cracks in the mask. And once you start noticing them, you can no longer unsee them. And if understanding the hidden architecture of human behavior fascinates you, consider subscribing to Inner Truth Lab. There's much more beneath the surface than most people ever realize. Because now we move into the deeper territory, the psychological mechanism that explains why these signals appear and how they reveal the truth long before the words do. Here's the truth most people never learn. You don't read people by looking at them. You read them by looking for what costs them effort. Because every human being lives in two layers. Layer 1, the performed self. This is the version they want the world to see. Confident, polished, controlled. A curated projection built from fear, desire, and social pressure. This layer is easy to imitate. Manipulators thrive here. Layer 2, the leaking self. This is the version they cannot fully hide. The micro-hesitation before agreeing. The subtle clench of the jaw when they feel threatened. The shallow breath when confronted. The slight delay before answering a question they didn't expect. This layer reveals truth without permission. Most people mistake Layer 1 for identity. But Layer 1 is nothing more than presentation. It is Layer 2 that carries intention. Once you understand this, reading people becomes astonishingly clear. Confident people aren't defined by loudness. They're defined by absence of tension. Liars aren't revealed by their words. They're revealed by the milliseconds before speaking. Insecure people don't announce insecurity. They reveal it through constant micro-corrections, straightening clothes, adjusting posture, fidgeting with objects. Manipulators don't look manipulative. They look too prepared, their answers too smooth, their emotional reactions slightly delayed, as if rehearsed. The mind can fake expressions, but the nervous system cannot fake timing. And this is the heart of reading people. Real behavior is the part they didn't have time to edit. The glance that flickers before the smile. The breath that shortens before the answer. The stiffness before the hug. The eyes that widen a fraction before denying something. These are the moments where the brain runs faster than the mask. These are the glitches that reveal everything. Most people search for signs of truth in the performance. You must search for it in the friction, because every lie creates tension, and tension always leaves fingerprints. Once you learn to see this, you stop guessing who someone is. You start reading them, clearly, calmly, accurately, long before they realize they've been understood. Now that you understand the structure beneath human behavior, the question becomes, how do you use this in real life? Ethically, clearly, and without paranoia. Here are the 7 practical lenses that allow you to read anyone with precision. Not in a cold or manipulative way, but in a way that protects your time, energy, and emotional clarity. 1. Watch the baseline. Every person has a natural rhythm, the way they speak, gesture, pause. Before trying to read someone, observe this baseline, because truth is revealed not in the baseline, but in the deviation from it. 2. Look for emotional dissonance. When words say one thing but tone or body says another, believe the body doesn't negotiate with truth. 3. Observe the micro-delay. Honest reactions are instant. Dishonest ones have a subtle loading time, a half-second where the brain scrambles to create a believable response. 4. Track tension, not volume. Loud people are not necessarily confident. Real tension hides in the jaw, neck, shoulders, and breath. A person may speak bravely while their body quietly collapses inward. 5. Notice where their eyes go under pressure. The eyes reveal what the mind escapes to. Some look down, shame. Some look left or right, searching for a story. Some stare too intensely, overcompensation. 6. Ask questions that disrupt rehearsed narratives. Manipulators rely on predictable scripts. Break the script with an unexpected angle and watch the real self slip through. 7. Study their recovery. The truth is not in the slip, it's in how they try to fix the slip. People reveal more in recovery than in the initial mistake. And here's the deeper psychological punch many avoid. When someone shows you how they behave under discomfort, you are seeing who they truly are, not who they want to be. This is one of those insights that changes the way you interact with everyone, from partners to co-workers to strangers on the street. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever noticed someone reveal their truth in a tiny, subtle moment? Your perspective may help someone who's reading. Reading people is a powerful skill, but every powerful skill comes with a shadow, and the shadow begins here. The moment you start understanding human behavior, you may feel the temptation to analyze everyone, all the time. This is dangerous. Not because the skill is wrong, but because without emotional maturity, it can turn into projection, paranoia, or even quiet arrogance. You must understand this clearly. Reading people is not a weapon, it's a compass, a tool for orientation, not domination. If you use this knowledge to manipulate, you will eventually fall into the same trap manipulators fall into. You will stop trusting others, and worse, you will stop trusting yourself. People who misuse psychological insight create a prison inside their mind, constantly scanning, doubting, calculating, never at peace. This is why ethical readers of behavior follow 3 rules. Rule 1. You read behavior, not destiny. People change, trauma heals, insecurity softens. Someone's tension today is not who they are forever. Rule 2. You observe, you don't accuse. Just because you notice a micro delay or a nervous shift doesn't mean someone is lying or manipulating. Behavior gives clues, not verdicts. Rule 3. You protect first, interpret later. The purpose of reading people is not to judge them. It's to protect your boundaries, your energy, and your future decisions. You are not meant to become a silent detective, walking through life dissecting everyone like a case study. You are meant to become someone who sees the world more clearly, who avoids unnecessary pain, and who recognizes genuine people faster so deeper connections can grow. Because the truth is simple. When you read others well, you also begin to read yourself more honestly. Your projections, your fears, your biases, they slowly rise to the surface. And this is the part many never expect. The better you become at understanding human behavior, the more responsibility you carry. Not to expose people, but to understand them. Not to control people, but to see them without illusions. Not to stay ahead of them, but to stay aligned with the truth. This skill can protect you, elevate you, and open doors most people never even notice. But only if you use it with the weight and the wisdom it demands. There is a moment, usually quiet and almost invisible, when a person who learns to read human behavior realizes something profound. The world was never chaotic. It was only unread. Every interaction you've ever had, every disappointment, every bond, every betrayal, every unexpected moment of kindness, they all followed patterns. Patterns you were never trained to see. But now the fog begins to thin. You start noticing the tone beneath the tone, the intention beneath the sentence, the fear beneath the anger, the longing beneath the silence. People stop being puzzles and start becoming stories. Stories written in tension, in posture, in breath, in the small and fragile truths they try to hide from the world, and sometimes from themselves. And maybe the most surprising realization is this: the more clearly you see others, the more gently you begin to hold them. Because you begin to notice that everyone is fighting something. Everyone carries a bruise you can't see. Everyone hides an insecurity behind the smallest movement. Even the loudest people tremble somewhere inside. Even the coldest ones are protecting an old wound. Even the confident ones have nights they question everything. Reading people doesn't harden you. Not truly. It softens you in a different way, a way that feels like wisdom rather than naivety. You start understanding that behavior is rarely personal. Most of what people do is a reflection of their fears, their past, their conditioning, their unspoken pain. You stop taking things as attacks and start seeing them as signals. And slowly, almost silently. You become harder to deceive, but easier to connect with. Harder to manipulate, but easier to trust. Harder to fool, but easier to be honest around. Because clarity doesn't build walls, clarity builds boundaries. And boundaries create space for the right people to enter. So as this chapter closes, let this understanding settle quietly inside you. You do not need to control people. You do not need to predict them. You only need to see them. And once you see them, truly see them, you'll navigate life with the kind of calm certainty that feels like walking with a light in a world full of shadows, not because the world became safer, but because you became clearer.